Alright, by now you probably know I'm a glutton for punishment, or maybe I am just a sucker for the Mighty Grandad here. This is, of course, the de Havilland Canada DHC-2 Beaver back in Alaska. We're at Juneau right here on runway 8, and we are going to do a little bit more three-point landing practice. I am almost there. I've almost cracked the code. As you can see, we've got takeoff flaps set. Let's just pop inside. Take a look at our views here. Just going to check our trim, make sure I've got a little bit of right rudder trim in there, and I do. This scribe is for neutral. This is elevator trim. Trimmed relatively neutral for that. Quick pre-flight check. I've been getting carb icing, so I'm going to turn my carb heat on. That's right here. I discovered that this wobble pump is just a hand pump, basically, to get things primed, so this has no bearing in flight, apparently. And this is our oil dipstick, if you can believe it. Totally wild. Totally bush. Just turn on our landing light and our strobes and turn on our instrument lights just a little bit. We'll dim them here. You can just dim it right this way. Make sure we have enough fuel. We do. We're just going to do a couple of patterns. Again, these are our mags. That's our starter. And our primer to prime the engine is down here, and the reason why the primer is down there is because if we come around here, and you'll forgive the bounce right there, let's see if it shows it. Our fuel tank is right behind one of these panels here. I think right there. And that's where the 3 fuel fillers for the 3 tanks are. So the lines run through here, and the primer is down here. Again, you can see the unbelievably good looking strut work here, and the Pratt & Whitney Wasp, and the nicely rusty exhaust, and the nicely worn tires, and the unbelievably good reflections, and just down to every little detail on this. Look at the way the reflection rolls across that. Look at that. That is tasty. Right down to the worn out paint on the engine cowlings here. Let's see if I can just zoom in on that. See that right around there? Little bits of worn out paint and a little bit of yellow here bleeding through. Very, very, very nice. The whole thing. Little bits of oil and little damage right there. Oh, I'm so sorry that's not damage. Those are steps and little footholds, and just every bit of it really, really nice. Let's make sure our flaps are set at takeoff. They are. And just in case we want to engage the autopilot, which we won't, but just in case we need to, for some weird reason, we'll make sure our heading bug is set. And everything else is on, and our temps are in the green, so let us go flying. Let's do a tight left-hand pattern so we can see the airfield. We've got terrain around here we need to look out for, but we're all grown-ups here. So I'm going to take off the parking brake and bring the mixtures to full and get a little case of happy feet here. Try and maintain center line. And as you can see, we go flying very quickly in this airplane. Trim a little nose down here. Gave it just a little bit too much right rudder, as you can tell from the ball over there. We'll take out our flaps, and we will watch out for terrain here. That is a glacier. And as you can see, she's got plenty of power. Still getting the hang. I'm just a little over controlling on the rudder here. Just get the rudder trimmed out a little bit. Just getting the feel for it. I think it's because these engines generate a mighty wallop of torque that it's easy to let things get a little out of hand. We're just going to climb to a little bit above pattern altitude because I'm going to stretch it out a little bit so I can tell you what I've learned about landing tail draggers here. Basically, we were landing far too fast and far too nose down is the bottom line. Let me just bring back the props a little bit so we can talk. So, part of the code is to get our speeds under control. Just trying to get our rudders and rudder under control there. I think it's because I'm in a swivel chair as well. That can't help. Alright, so we're about 1,500 feet. We're going to turn on that island right there. And then come on back. So I'm going to slow down a lot more, and I'm going to get in our 3-point attitude right as we come over the threshold. And I'm going to come off the power pretty steadily, and then I'm going to pull back. I'm going to trim a little bit more nose up than I ordinarily would, because we have to trim ourselves into that position, and that means it'll be neutral to a little bit of a push on our short final. Just see where we are here. Let's slow down a bit. That's the one thing. The visibility is not great out the side, so as I balloon into this turn here, forgive me. I'm trying to lose a little bit of speed. Okay, we'll bring our props to full, mixture full. And come on round. There's our runway. We're going to follow the approach lights here. It's a little bit of a offset approach because the hill. I'm going to start to trim nose up right now. Not that much. There's a little bit of wind here, and shame on me, I should check the MEDAR, but it is windy. And for all I know, the wind is actually unfavorable. I should have checked that, but let's get ourselves into a nice, okay, there's our VASI. It's red over white. Get ourselves into a nice stable descent. Put out a notch of flaps. Take off a whole lot of power. Bring in another notch of flaps. And watch that speed come off. Now, here's where I'm going to start my trimming. Okay. Off comes the power. In comes our final stage of flaps, and in comes the trim. As we're still descending fairly smartly here. Okay. Just going to line ourselves up. And I'm just going to let ourselves come down. Whenever I take out the power, I'm just going to relax a little bit of back pressure. We're a little bit low by our picture, not too much. Okay, there we are. We're right on the bottom of the arc, and I'm just going to keep it there. You notice we're still slightly nose down. So I'm going to trim up a little bit more. Put in a little bit more power so we don't fall out of the sky. And I'm going to get almost flat. A little more power. Keeping this picture right about here, even though it feels like we're a little bit low. We're really not. Okay, there we are. Trimming back even more. And I'm bringing out our power, and I'm bringing us into the 3-point position. And rolling out our power. Like so. Now I'm just dancing the rudder pedals just a little bit so that we stay lined up. And let me show you what that looked like. I hope it looked pretty good. Put ourselves on short final here. I probably mushed it in a little bit, and I can probably, working on it, come in a little bit hotter and roll off the power a little bit quicker, but I wanted to do a kind of long, short final here, just to fully get right with the laws of physics. Now, I'm really not about to hit those trees. That's just because of the foreshortening effect of zooming in so tight here. The airport scenery, by the way, is by a guy named Mr. X. Mr. X6, actually, on xplane.org. See how we're a little bit low? Not by much. And we are just loafing on in there. And here we are. This is sort of a pre-flare right there. Sort of flatten out our descent. And boom. Not perfect. I could have probably pulled back even more, but that was a reasonable facsimile of a 3-point landing. Let's just see and hear what it looked like up close. I don't know why it gives that little bounce. I think it's because the camera's too high. Okay, so we'll get ourselves into that position here, and now let's see what it looks like. The sound on this plane is just unbelievably beautiful. Okay, there we are. Nice. Not perfect, but not bad. All right, so there you have it. The 3-pointer, the code is semi-cracked, and I will continue to learn this plane because it is just so sweet. It's so sweet to fly. I can't even begin to tell you. Maybe this is why I like flying the Mighty Dash, because it's got good parents and grandparents. Comes from good stock. But in any case, here on the ground in Juneau, we will have many adventures in the Alaskan bush in this thing, and I will see you next time.